In this video, part of our fractions series, we're going to be looking at equivalent fractions. You may have watched one of our videos already, the introduction to fractions. If you haven't, please watch it, and please watch all the series of fractions videos when they come out, because they're going to be very useful. Okay, so equivalent fractions. What are equivalent fractions? Well, what we're talking about is two fractions which talk about the same amount of stuff. So here, as you no doubt already worked out, we have half a pizza. So we had, if you remember from our previous video, one pizza divided into two pieces, and that would be one of the pieces. So a half of a pizza. On this side, we have two pieces of pizza. Each piece is 1/4. So half a pizza is the same as 2/4. So half a pizza equals, no, it doesn't equal 1/4. Half a pizza equals 2/4 of a pizza. So that's the basis of equivalent fractions. So 1/2 equals 2/4. So what if you were asked, we've got a fraction, we want to change, right, do you remember from your previous video, this is called the numerator, tells you how many pieces, so we've got one piece. On this fraction we've got two pieces. So on this number here is called the denominator. So what's happened, we've got a 2 here because the original pizza was divided into two. In other words, 2 halves. On this fraction, the original pizza was divided into 4/4. We've got 2 of the quarters here. So half pizza is 2/4. That's all pretty easy. We probably all know that 1/2 is 2/4. But what if we didn't, and we were given a fraction, a half, and we wanted to change the denominator into something else? How do we do that without changing the amount of pizza we have? Because only Dynamo can make half pizza into 3 pizzas, or 3 pizzas into 1 pizza. We can't do that. We're mathematicians, not magicians. So how do we change this fraction to give it a different denominator, but without changing the amount of pizza that we have? Okay, so all we've got to do is quite simple. This is what we're changing. We're changing the denominator. I'll just write that out. So it's denominator. As you can see, I always leave enough room to write my words. Okay, so we want to change that from halves into quarters. We want to make sure we don't create more pizza or lose pizza on the way. So what have we done? How have we gone from 2 to 4? Now, when dealing with fractions, you may have heard an expression: whatever you do to the top, do the same to the bottom, or whatever you do to the bottom, do the same to the top. So when we say that, what we mean is either multiply or divide. Well, we multiplied by 2. So to get from the denominator of 2 to the denominator of 4, we multiplied by 2. So in that case, if we multiply the bottom number by 2, we have to multiply the top number by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. So a half and 2/4 are equivalent fractions. So what I'm going to do now, rub out my amazing drawing of the pizza, rub that out, and I'm going to show you some more equivalent fractions and how we ensure that we've got them done properly. Okay, so we already know that a half is equivalent to 2/4 because we times that by 2, we times that one by 2. So if we just wanted to repeat this sequence here, so if a half is 2/4, how many eighths will it be? Well, again, we're just doing exactly the same thing here. We're timesing it by 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. So here on the top, we're going to go 2 times 2, and we end up with 4. So 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4 is equivalent to 4/8. In the same way, if we times 8 by 2, we get 16. So times 4 by 2, we get 8. So 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4, which is equivalent to 4/8, which is equivalent to 8/16. We could also do a similar thing with thirds. If you think about it, you would have probably done in your maths problems with halves and quarters and eighths, and then you also will have done problems with thirds. So 1/3, so what if we had to change a third into sixths? So this is going to be a similar example. So we're changing thirds into sixths. Again, we've multiplied by 2. So 1/3 times 1 by 2, you get 2/6. So 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6. Okay, what about if we had 2/3 and we wanted to change that into sixths? Well, 2/3 is equivalent to, well, how many sixths? Let's work it out. 3 times 2 was 6, so we do the same here. 2 times 2 is 4. So 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6. So just to recap before I scrub this page out, 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4, equivalent to 4/8, is equivalent to 8/16. We just doubled up the top number and we doubled up the bottom number. 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6 because we doubled the 3 to get 6, so we had to double the 1 to get 2. 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6. As we doubled the 3 to get 6, we had to double the 2 to get 4. Okay, so you don't always just double numbers. We've got to do some other examples, otherwise you'll think that to get an equivalent fractions you just time everything, multiply everything by 2, which would not be great. Because, for example, what you might have, you might need to change thirds into ninths. And you might need to know 1/3 would be how many ninths. A little trick with maths, practice, practice, practice. Because most of the children that I tutor, they will tell me straight away that 1/3 equals 3/9. They wouldn't need to think about it. And that is really where you need to get to if you want to do well in maths. You don't need to be thinking, what is 4 times 8? You know that it's 32. Okay, so we took 3, we've multiplied this time by 3, and we've ended up with 9. So what we want to do is multiply the top number, which is called the numerator, times that by 3, and you'll get 3, which tells you that 1/3 is equivalent to 3/9. So what if you had 2/3? Again, most of the children I tutor now will just tell you straight away that's equal to 6/9. But how did we get there? Well, we multiplied that by 3 because 3 times 3 is 9. So we've got to multiply this number by 3. So 2 times 3 equals 6. So 2/3 is 6/9. Obviously with a fraction, we just stay with thirds. You could have what I would used to call a top-heavy fraction. It's easier to kind of relate to, but the technical name is an improper fraction. So we could have 4/3, which some of you may already realise is 1 1/3, but we're not going to worry about that. That's for another video, which is the simplifying fractions video. Okay, so 4/3 is equivalent to how many ninths? Well, as we know by now, having done these two, we multiplied that 3 by 3 to give 9. So we're going to multiply the top number also by 3, which will give us 12. So 4/3 is equivalent to 12/9. So we could go on, but I think that's enough for thirds. So equivalent fractions, we've looked at halves, quarters, eighths, sixteenths, etc. We've looked at thirds. Another really useful one, which is going to come up in your maths problems, either in school or when you're doing the 11 plus, is looking at fifths and tenths. So we have, 1/5 is equal to how many tenths? Again, a lot of you are going to say straight away, well, 1/5 is 2/10, which is all very well, but what if you forgot that 1/5 was 2/10? You needed to work it out. So again, 5 times what equals 10? 5 times 2 equals 10. So we've multiplied that bottom number by 2, so we're going to multiply the top number by 2. So 5 times 2 is 10, 1 times 2 is 2, so 1/5 equals 2/10. And obviously we can do that with any number of fifths. So let's do 3/5 would be how many tenths? Well, as we just done there, we multiplied by 2, so 5 times 2 is 10. So we've got to multiply the top number by 2 as well. 3 times 2 is 6. So we know that 1/5 is 2/10, 3/5 is 6/10. Obviously you can also go the other way. So for example, if you had 8/10 and you wanted to know the equivalent of that in fifths, how do we get from 10 to 5? We divided by 2. So if we divided 10 by 2 to get 5, we're going to divide the 8 by 2 to get 4. So 8/10 is equivalent to 4/5. Or if we had 6/10, we wanted to know how many fifths it is, we divided 10 by 2 to get 5, so we're going to divide 6 by 2 to get 3, telling us that 6/10 is equivalent to 3/5. Okay, so we're going to finish this video by just giving you a little test. So I'm going to put a sum up on the board, give you a few seconds to work out what it is, and see if you get the same answer as me, which will hopefully be the right one. It's not 100% guaranteed, but probably about 98%. I'm going to get it right. Okay, so then, say we had to work out what the equivalent to 2/3. So what we want to know is 2/3. We want to know how many ninths that is. So I'll just give you a few seconds to start working that out now, while I yabber on for a bit longer. So we need to know 2/3 is how many ninths. To see if you can work that one out. I know some of you will be shouting at the screen saying, I got it ages ago. Other people will still be doing it, but let's work through it. So 2/3, we need to know that in ninths. Well, because we've multiplied 3 by 3 to get 9, we're going to multiply 2 by 3 to get 6. So 2/3 is equivalent to 6/9. Okay, let's have a look at another one. So again, as soon as I write this down, start working it out. So we want to know what would be 1/4, okay, and we're going to work out how many eighths that is. So 1/4 would be how many eighths? Okay, hope you've all managed to work that out. So 1/4, because we've done 4 multiplied by 2 to get 8, we're going to multiply the 1 by 2 to give 2. So 1/4 is equivalent to 2/8. Okay, let's do a couple more. So we have 6/10. We're thinking, hang on, well that's just 6/8. Okay, let's do 6/8 then. So 6/8, we want to know how many quarters that is. So just give you a couple of seconds to work that one out. Okay, so from 8 to 4, we've divided by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 6 divided by 2 will give us 3. So 6/8 equals 3/4. Okay, we're just going to be, we've talked about eighths, we've talked about tenths, halves, quarters, we haven't talked about twelfths. So let's give you a question involving twelfths. So this is going to be our last question. So what you want to know is 3/4. We want to change that one into twelfths. So our last question, see how you get on with this one. Okay, hope you've all managed to work that one out. So 4 changes into 12. To do that, we're multiplying by 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. So up here we're going to go 3 times 3 is 9. So 3/4 is equivalent to 9/12. So before I sign off from this video, just a little summary. So if you want to change a fraction, if you want to change the denominator to a different denominator, still have the same amount of stuff, same amount of pizza or whatever it is, what you've got to do, whatever you do, not whatever you do, you're only allowed to either multiply or divide. So if you multiply this number by 3 to get 9, you've got to multiply that number by 3, which will give us 6. Or if we're dividing, if we've got 6/8 and we want to change into quarters, because we divided the 8 by 2 to get 4, we've got to divide the 6 by 2 to get 3. So thanks for watching. That's equivalent fractions. Thank you for watching that video, and if you enjoyed that, please check out our website for more great online resources. So the address is www.routes2success11plus.uk, or find us on Twitter @routes2success. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more great videos. Thank you.